Our sponsor today is Learn to Earn USA, a fund that was created to assist veterans and their spouses in gaining employment through their training program in the field of credit and collections. Learn to Earn USA offers an intensive one-week seminar established for the sole purpose of providing the necessary skill set to secure and maintain employment in the field of credit, collections, customer service, sales as it pertains to the credit and collection industry. To learn more, go to their website, learntooearnusa.org, and to donate, go to oasisforveterans.org. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Savvy Central Radio. Today, our wonderful guest is Owen Huges, and I will be joined by my wonderful co-host, Brian C. Rivera, where we will be interviewing one of the few nose art artists from World War II who are still alive today, and he's going to share some amazing, fascinating stories to some of the airplanes he's adorned over the years, over 100 World War II airplanes. To serving over 4 years in the U.S. Army Air Force during World War II as a sign painter and artist. And I'm so excited to have you out here, Owen. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Awesome. I am so happy. Well, tell us a little bit about how this all came about for you. You've been an artist all your life. How did it come about that you got to being one of the top nose art and sign painters during World War II? How did that all work out for you?
I went in to become a aviation photo photographer. That didn't work out. I volunteered for glider pilot. That didn't work out. Glider pilot was a very dangerous job, but when you're young, nothing's going to happen to you. My outfit was frozen. We went overseas. I applied for flying cadet. I passed all the exams and everything, but again, the outfit was going to move. I couldn't get out of the outfit. So after 3 tries, I decided I wasn't supposed to fly. I was a sign painter, so they put me to work doing sign work. I was in charge of the sign shop. Every place we went, that was strictly my job then. Then they found out I did artwork. That's when the nose art started. Everybody was coming to me for nose art. Planes would come into our field for new things that were added to the planes, the B-17s, and our outfit did the changes on the planes. And the planes would come in, and the crews would come in and ask me if I would do some nose art on their planes. One plane in particular, they didn't have an idea of what they wanted. And they said, "Do you have any ideas?" And I said, "Yes, I've got a very nice picture of Lena Horne." Well, at that time, there was a little controversy on whites and blacks, as you know. And I thought maybe they would turn that down. And they said, "She's a pretty girl, put her on the plane." So I did. And I contacted Lena Horne 3 times. I sent pictures of what I did on the plane. This was after the war. I contacted her. But I think it went to her agent, and it was never shown to her, because I never heard from her at all. I heard from the agents, and that was it. One interesting story I have is that I never got paid for my nose art. The going price during the war was $10 for nose art.
Wow.
And I spent a lot of time on those planes, and I didn't want to get paid. So I never got paid for any of them. I just didn't want it. I wanted to fly. So I'd say, when you're going up, let me know. I'd like to go with you. I was at Thurlow Air Base, and 306th Bomb Group was the first bomb group to go over Germany. And I'd see one of the B-17s warming up on the field, and I'd motion to the pilot that, "Can I get in the plane and go with you?" And he'd nod his head, and then he'd motion for me to sign the paper with the ground crew chief, because if the plane crashed somewhere, they were testing it, make sure it was airworthy is what they were doing.
Yeah.
And if the plane crashed, they wanted to know who went down with it. So I'd have to sign the paper. I'd get in the plane. The whole crew was on the plane. When we came around to land, the crew chief said the pilot wants everybody up in the radio room. That's right over the wing, because he was having trouble handling the plane, and he wanted all the weight over the wing. So I went up in the radio room, and I sat on the floor. There's no room in there. There's only room for the radio man, and all the rest of the guys were standing. We hit the runway so hard that the tubes, the radios had tubes then, the tubes were bouncing out of the radio.
Mm.
And we came to a stop in the middle of the runway, and we all got out, and these guys were all discussing the landing, which was a rough landing. And so I walked back to my hangar, and the plane bounced high enough that the guys on the ground said a truck could have driven underneath us. We bounced that high. On the afternoon, I saw another plane warming up in the afternoon. So I went out, and I wasn't supposed to be doing this. This wasn't part of my job.
Mm.
But I saw this plane warming up, and I went out and motioned the pilot, can I go along? Yep, signed the sheet. So I signed the sheet and got in the plane. There wasn't anybody in it except the pilot, the co-pilot, and I think the engineer was in it, plus 3 ground officers were in the plexiglass nose. I didn't know they were there, but I was in the back end, and I was leaning out the waist gun window, and we flew around, and I didn't know what was going on, so I went up in the radio room, sat on the radio man's seat, and looking out a little window, all you could see was the wing. All of a sudden, I hear a crash, and I thought the whole tail was ripped off the plane. The pilot, he was known for his antics, and he wanted to scare those 3 officers in the nose. So he brought the plane down, headed right for a hedge, and he was going to raise it up over the hedge and drop it on the runway.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't raise it up. He went right through the hedge, and there were posts in the hedge and wire fencing. One of the posts hit the ball turret and caved that in and took off the tail wheel, and we were dragging posts and wire fencing down the runway with us. And the 3 officers who were in the nose were so scared that when they got out, boy, they were cussing that pilot out, and they were carrying on. So I thought I hadn't better hang around here. So I went back to my hangar where I was supposed to be, and he was the first B-17 pilot to become an ace. Mm. He did some weird things, and that was one of them, and I was with him.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
So one guy called me, one pilot, here goes another story. One pilot called me from the control tower, and he says, you want to go for a flight? I said, yeah. He said, come down to the control tower and get a parachute. Well, I never had to do that before. We never flew that high. Anyhow, I went down and got the parachute, and it was I'm not sure what kind of plane it was. I found out why he wanted me to go along. Mm. To start the engines, you had to stick a crank in the side of the engine and crank it. And your head was just about 6 inches behind, or say 8 inches at the most, behind the propeller. And I had to get up on the wing on my hands and knees and crank that engine and get the engine started. And I didn't know where we were going. I thought we were just going to fly around and come back and land. We headed north, and then he wanted me to read the map and see if we were on the course right. And I said, yeah, we're all set. Oh, I couldn't read a map. I gave the map to him, and he put it across his wheel. And he wasn't watching where he was going. Of course, he didn't have to in the air. And I was looking out, and a bunch of Lancasters, big English bombers, were taking off. And I was seeing them take off down on the ground, and, gee, some of them were getting up a level with us. One of them was heading right straight towards us in the front, and he wasn't even looking. He was looking at the map, and I said, you suppose that guy sees us? And he looked over his map, and he pushed the wheel forward, and we went down. And we went clear up to Scotland, down to Wales, and this takes all day, and we were delivering parts for airplanes. Mm-hmm. And we went to Wales, and then back into England, and back to our field. It was late afternoon by the time we got back, and I told the guys at my shop, I said, if anybody's looking for me, tell me I'm at the bomb dump painting signs. They won't come out there looking for me. Well, I had spent the whole day on this flight going to Scotland, Wales, and back to England, delivering parts, and it was just one of those funny things that happened to me. And
oh, wow.
I developed into more artwork. They kept asking me for artwork. I did the historical book for a 441st Troop Carrier Group. Mm-hmm. I was taken out of my service group that I was in. The service group didn't have any control over me whatsoever. And so I did the historical book for the 441st. Then I think the 9th Troop Carrier Command got word of me through that historical book, and they requested I be sent to Paris right after the war finished. I was requested to go to Paris to take charge of all the art and sign work for the Troop Carrier Command.
Hmm.
So I went to Paris. It was just another job to me. I mean, it was nothing special. I went to Paris. I lived under the Eiffel Tower in a C-47 for 3 months. So I know what took place there. Maybe I shouldn't say this. Channel Magazine published the story. They got it from someone who interviewed me about it.
Mm-hmm.
I was mentioned twice. It wasn't my story anymore, and they added stuff to it that was not true.
Mm-hmm.
I was there. I know what happened, and they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
So really, that is as far as I've gone with my stories. I'm getting close to the point where I'm going to go to Frankfurt, Germany, and come back home. And I came home, which is a coincidence. I came into New York Harbor on November 11th, which is
Today.
That's the day you're going to have this story on the radio. And we had what I thought was quite a funny experience. We were so happy to be home. The fire boats were shooting their hoses up in the air for us, and there was all the horns from the boats, and people were waving out the windows of the buildings, and we were so excited. Everybody on the boat, and there was only about 700 troops on the boat. It was a Victory boat, which was small. Everybody on the boat threw their mess kits overboard. And I said if they dug down in the New York Harbor, they'd find a lot of aluminum down there. What else would you like to know?
What I'd love to know, if you're comfortable with it, we'd love to hear one of your most significant stories from living under the Eiffel Tower, if you're comfortable with it.
Well, that was my biggest story, is living under the Eiffel Tower, yes. And all the experiences I had while I was there in that 3 months. I worked from 8 o'clock in the morning until 12 noon. Then it opened to the public, and that's when I quit work. Then it was up to me what I wanted to do. I go sightseeing, which I did a lot. I could go down to a American nightclub that they set up. I can't think of the name, but Big L. It's a section that all the hookers hung out. I would go down to that nightclub, and it had a wonderful floor show. It was free to get in. The only thing you could get to drink was champagne, and I've developed a taste for champagne. Quite a few experiences down there. Well, I just can't go into all of them. I did in my stories that I'm writing.
I understand.
I'm going in quite detailed on that.
If anyone out there would be interested in hearing your stories or finding them more, are you publishing them anywhere where they could check them out?
Well, my intention was to have it printed in a book form. Pam Melroy, the astronaut, I did a painting for her, and her parents bought the painting for her. Is of her shuttle taking off, and my wife and I went down and watched her take off, and Helen, the mother of Pam, the astronaut, she said, I'm saving every one of your stories in a book. There's a start of a book for you. So someday I hope to have it printed.
Well, any publishers out there listening to this interview, please give Owen a call. If you want to reach out to him, give me a holler via savvycentralradio@gmail.com. I'll get your message over to Owen, because we need to get your stories out there to the public. This needs to be in writing so that everyone for generations to come can enjoy and live through your eyes the experiences you had.
One other thing I'd like to mention. I wasn't supposed to be taking pictures of restricted stuff, like airplanes. But I had a movie camera also, an 8mm. I've got a big roll of 8mm film from the war. I didn't have it processed because I knew they would keep it. They wouldn't allow me to have it. I brought it home, sealed in the cans. I had it processed after I got home. I've got it on reels, full reel of film. And I'd like to have it put on discs with my commentary as to what they're looking at, and I got so much it would cost me a fortune. So I think there'd be somebody more willing to it be part of history too. And I got pictures of stuff that, like I say, I tell the funny things that happened behind the scenes, and these films that I got that I took would be from behind the scenes.
See somehow if we can get some sponsors to pool some money together and have this thing digitized, because it would be a tragedy to have this celluloid just go to waste and disintegrate and have a very, very important part of history just disappear like that.
Right. I agree with you. That's why I'd like to get it put onto discs, but the cost was going to be more than I could stand. So I thought maybe somebody would be interested in history that would give me a decent price.
Well, anyone out there who would like to help Owen get his reels onto a DVD or disc, please call